part 2 of Service Accommodation Crash Course. Now, if you haven't yet watched my part 1, I really walked you through how to get your property registered, how to get your business registered, how to start a brand, how to qualify a location, how to qualify a property. As I was going through pricing, I mentioned in that video that in this video, I'm going to start with talking about monthly rates, because if you're watching this video straight away, it might be worth pausing this and watching, and I'm going to leave it on a description as well, the first link of the part 1 crash course, where I really have gone through a lot of detail. But in this video, I want to walk through understanding the monthly rates, because a lot of time when someone does a due diligence, they're generally just doing the nightly rates and they want to know how much we can make on a nightly rate and weekends and weekdays. But I actually want to talk about monthly rates, and the reason why I do that is we've had numbers of clients who's come in and gone, I charge this should what I should be charging, because I did a research when I first started, and I'm like, well, let's scrap all of that. Your calendar's empty. You have a great option to look at monthly rates. So one of the main reasons why I do this is a lot of time when you do due diligence, you've got to spend time doing your monthly research, because also if you can get this monthly rates right, then when you go and find a property based on certain rent and all the utilities and the fixed expenses, you can then go, okay, well, based on my research, all the monthly in Liverpool was X amount, right? Let's say the cheapest one was about 3,000, the expensive one was about 3.5, 4, whatever that was in the price bracket. But you can see here, if you go for the lowest number, after all your expenses, you would still make £1,000 net profit. They're willing to pay a certain figure when it comes to monthly, and if you can match that figure, then your property is going to automatically get booked. So let's go in first and let's look at the monthly rates, and then we'll dive into how you can start thinking about actual guest behavior while you're doing your market due diligence, especially for your pricing strategies for your potential service accommodation business. Well, as you can see from my screen, I'm in Airbnb right now, and I guess your monthly searches can be run through different opportunities, right? But I'm going to do it 2 different ways, because you can see the actual options behind it. But it's going to be exciting, because let's say, okay, so I'm going to go Liverpool city centre. I'm going to use 1st of May, 31st of May, 4 guests, and I'm going to do search, right? And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to try and keep the map aligned, so I'm just going to use that. And effectively what you're going to see now is exciting, because there's numbers of properties available here. You can see here, like, 2,413, 5,000, 4,000, and honestly, it's going to be so different. 4,295, 3,872, and 3,776, 1,635 for a 2-bed, and all the pricing are going to be so different. What you're going to realize now, and this is something that I want you to understand, is by you doing a monthly search, it will really give you a big opportunity and understanding the actual location. Like, for example, 156 properties only available. So now let's talk about the actual available stock and why it is this way, rather than the 700 properties we saw earlier on Airbnb. So now the reason why there's only 156 property available, doesn't mean that all the properties are being booked. It's because people have certain bookings in the middle of the month. So there's probably like at least 200-300 properties which has got only 1 or 2 bookings in May for a couple of nights. But what does that mean to them is they've actually blocked their own calendar, which means now they've kicked themselves out from being searched on the long-term booking. So now hopefully this gives you an understanding of my thought process on actually, by you not getting booking at all and you've been found on monthly searches, you have a bigger opportunity to land yourself actually a longer term booking, which for me personally, we've done it for so many clients who comes in and go, Piers, I'm actually completely dead. And I'm like, great, let's understand what the monthly rate is. Let's try and work back ways to understand what's the rent, what's all the utilities, what's the potential Airbnb commission you're going to pay, package it up and actually deliver that as a price that's going to make you X amount of profit. Now, guys, again, if we can take it into direct bookings, it's a completely different strategy and you have a better option, because people find you directly. They don't have to pay any commission if you're in that structure, and you're going to get a direct booking lead, which effectively makes you in a better position than most of the people who are just fighting on Airbnb. So that itself, I really wanted to make sure that this crash course was not about what it's already out there. I'm trying to show you things like understanding monthly rates, things like understanding all type of guest behavior, behavior, right? So I'm talking about, hey, Monday to Friday, contractor, or leisure weekend, family out, weekend with groups of people in Liverpool. That's going to, all of these things will make you understand how you're going to secure your unit, and especially how you look into your unit while you set up, you furnish, and actually go live. So my next exercise for you is to take a note on the exact process we've taken, but also I want you to go back and do it yourself and think about the guest behavior. Who's your ideal potential guest, short term or long term, and how can you be those guests while you're doing your market research? So as we now move into the next part, you've now qualified a property, a location, your nightly rates and your monthly rates. Effectively now is a good time, or you should be able to be confident enough to go and secure a property, especially a rent-to-rent property. Now you can do it through two different ways. One, through a landlord, and two, through a letting agents. Now look, I'm going to keep this very simple because I've done a lot of video around this before, but through a landlord, it's effectively platforms like OpenRent, Spare Room, potentially sometimes, Gumtree, and they're probably the three platforms I would probably maximize. And there is Facebook Marketplace. Yes, you can go networking, but OpenRent is probably the easiest platform right now that everyone goes to. Now, sadly, it is saturated because people are doing rent-to-rent, people are sending landlords messages on a daily basis, and landlords are now getting used to those messages. So going back to what I said earlier, do you have a brand ready? Because if you don't, you're going to be another Joe who's going to send them a message and say, hey, are you looking to let your property out for 1 to 3 years, blah, 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 3 to 5 years, the same usual template. It's not going to work, right? You've got to spend time to leverage this opportunity. Secondly, when you're doing through OpenRent, if you keep doing copy and pasting the same message, they will shadow ban you, which means you're not allowed to send that messages again, obviously effectively losing the account. You will not be able to work through landlords. So for me, I always had, and I've owned an estate agency and a letting agency before, and I prefer to work with different businesses by understanding through a letting agent, because if you work with a letting agent, you're not going to get banned. You're just going to get a little bit more no's, but also a yes where needed. And if that yes turns into the deal, you're always going to have someone that you can work with. So let's talk about through a letting agent now, which is probably my preference. A lot of people say, hey, look, go through a landlord because less hassle and stuff. But trust me, guys, it's saturated right now. A landlord will open an inbox and there's at least 5 to 10 people asking them about rent-to-rent services. Through a letting agent is still the same, and letting agents now are obviously introduced to a service accommodation business a lot because it's been going over the last 6 years, and some agents will say no to you straight away because they don't want to do any business. Now, I will always say to you, you've got to find your own script or your own processes, but the framework of having that conversation is exactly the same. Right now in this crash course, obviously my goal is for you to understand the process, but I've already done a video on how to speak to a letting agent. I've actually made a phone call on that call, so I would love you to be able to go and watch that video after this, because it will really educate you around what a letting agent and how a letting agent deals with you, especially if you're a new operator, some of the questions they will ask you, and more importantly, they might be challenging enough to say, hey, no, we don't actually do it. So I hope you understand how you can secure a rent-to-rent property or the strategies. Obviously there's a lot more detail, and I will say to you, you've got to make at least 50 phone calls before you understand the process, the framework that's going to work for you. So guys, I hope you enjoyed another GrowYourBnb video and the crash course. Look, in the next video, I'm going to show you how to put an offer. Is it via phone call? Is it via an email? But look, let's come back to the next service accommodation crash course part 3, which I'm really excited to share. It's been an amazing pleasure making this video because I really want to share the best knowledge and the best practice in service accommodation business in 2024. So thank you so much for watching this another GrowYourBnb video. Please make sure you hit that like, subscribe and share, and I'll be back with another video soon.